guys, I'm Erin and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing kind of a three-part video around the Goodreads Choice Awards. So first I'm doing predictions, where I'm going to try and do my own predictions for two of the categories, and then I'm going to be doing reactions to the list of nominees once they are released, which hopefully will be in the next day or two after I've filmed this part. And then lastly will be a TBR of kind of a fun reading project I have planned for next month. The Goodreads Choice Awards, if you're unaware, are, as their name suggests, run on Goodreads, and there are a lot of gripes I could go into about how the nominees work, kind of how it's run, and that's just not the point of this video, so I'm not going to. If you're interested, there's definitely videos on YouTube that talk about that, but it can all be essentially boiled down to it's just a popularity contest, like more so than other awards, because it's a crowdsourced vote. So it's strict popularity contest. And so I still think they're fun though. Like, I personally love trying to predict winners and nominees. Like, I do this every year during the country music award shows. I always try to predict who wins and kind of thing. So I still think it's fun for that. I definitely put no stock in the Goodreads Choice Awards for telling me what the best books of the year are. It's essentially what I take from it is the most popular, most read books of the year. So how they actually work. During the last week of October, they post the nominees. So they have a bunch of categories. I will not go through and list them all, but they have all different genres. They have for different adults, they have the different genres for young adult, they have middle grade, they have nonfiction, cookbooks, graphic novels, poetry, like they have a whole tons of categories. And for each one, when they announce the nominees, it's the top 15 books that they have come up with somehow. And then there's the first round of voting, and during that round you can vote for one of those 15, or you can write in one that you think should be on the list. And then after the first round closes, which I think is like a week and a half, something like that, then they add the top 5 write-in votes to each category. So now you have a slate of 20 for the second round of voting, and in that round you just vote for your favorite of those 20, and then that gets narrowed down to the top 10 finalists, and you vote for the best to be the winner. And so the winner is announced, I think, right at the beginning of November is when the winner is posted, so it's about a little over a month as far as from beginning to end. And yeah, so that's how they work. So for my predictions, I'm going to be doing my list of 15 books I think will be the nominees for the adult fantasy category and the adult romance category. And so this is not who I think should be the top 15. Like, this is not my list of 15 best books. This is just the 15 I think will be the nominees. And this is essentially based off of just the books I feel have been hyped the most, because again, this is essentially just a popularity contest. And so that's from BookTube, from Discords I'm in, from Goodreads itself, from, you know, our fantasy and our romance book Reddit subs, just from looking at, you know, what books I've seen pushed in bookstores, just kind of all of that, which ones I think have been the most popular. I kind of went through and just came up with ones I thought of, and then I went on a couple of Goodreads lists of like the most anticipated 2021 releases kinds of lists, just to see if I had just forgotten about any that were 2021 releases. And then in addition to looking at some of those lists, some of this is also based a little bit on trends from previous. I didn't look super far back in years. I kind of just looked at last year, maybe the year before. So some of these I chose because these authors are often nominated, and it's like the next book in the series, this author's new book, as well as, especially for the romance category, last year the romance category was heavily contemporary, and so this year's list is also heavily contemporary, partially because it's a similar trend to last year, and also that's just the sub-genre of romance I am the most familiar with. But we'll see if any of these trends, as far as author or the romance trend, holds this year. And it was interesting. I actually found the romance list way easier to come up with than the fantasy list, and I think it's because in my mind, I guess we'll see if any of my predictions are right, but in my mind it felt like romance had more widely agreed upon hyped releases. Like, it felt like everyone was hyped for the same releases, whereas in fantasy it felt like people's hype was very spread out amongst releases. There were much fewer kind of 100% hype books, and I don't know if that's true in the audiences for these genres, or if it's just I have ended up diversifying the fantasy booktubers I watch much more than the romance booktubers, and so I just get all the same opinions more often, or the same excitement from the romance booktubers, whereas my fantasy, I just follow people that have wildly different tastes. So I guess we'll see how accurate these predictions are, and maybe the list I had an easier time coming up with is actually super wrong. Who knows? So starting with the adult fantasy list. So I have, starting with the adult fantasy list, and I did not rank these or put these in any order other than this is just alphabetical by title. So A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas, A Master of Gin by Peach Jolly Clark, Ariadne by Jennifer Saint, Blood Heir by Alona Andrews, Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff, For the Wolf by Hannah Witten, She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan, Sorrowland by River Solomon, The Girl on the Mountain by Mark Lawrence, The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik, The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne, The Wisdom of Crowds by Joe Abercrombie, The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gornichek, Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune, and When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain by Nevo. So here are my 15 books that I have predicted will be the adult fantasy nominees, and we'll see how many of them are correct. And then for the adult romance category, again, same thing. This list is just alphabetical by book title, not in any kind of ranked order. So we have Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert, It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey, Life's Too Short by Abby Jimenez, Neon Gods by Katie Roberts, One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry, Portrait of a Scotsman by Evie Dunmore, Second First Impressions by Sally Thorne, 7 Days in June by Tia Williams, The Crown of Gilded Bones by Jennifer L. Armentrout, The X-Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon, The Heart Principle by Helen Huang, The Love Hypothesis by Allie Hazelwood, The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren, and While We Were Dating by Jasmine Guillory. So again, here are the 15 covers for my adult romance predictions. And so I guess, hopefully, the nominees are going to come out in like a day or two after I film this segment. I held off filming as long as possible because I wanted to have like the most possible time for like hype books to get in my brain onto this list. So I'll be back soon with reactions, and we'll see how many I got right. Okay, so we have our Goodreads Choice Awards 2021 nominees been posted. And so, these are posted probably 3 weeks, 2 weeks later than I expected. So I've been sitting, waiting for these for a while. So starting with the fantasy, you can already see I got at least 2 wrong because this one and this one, Chosen and Beautiful and the new Alice Hoffman book, were not on my list. So let's see how I did. All right. Okay, Shadow of the Gods. Yes, got that one. All right. Under the Whispering Door, got that one as well. Witch's Heart and You Became the Sun. So the row 1 was a success. All right, 4 for 4 on row 1. Doing well so far. And obviously, none of these were a surprise because I predicted those. So moving down, The Hidden Palace. I did not get that one, but I'm not that surprised actually. This is one I don't think I thought about it when I was doing it, but I'm not surprised because now that I've seen it, I do remember it getting some buzz. I know the first book was popular, and yeah. So Last Graduate, also got that one. Malice. This one's surprising only because I thought this was a young adult book. I have not read it. I've heard really good things about it, and I'm interested in reading it, but I definitely thought this was a young adult book. And now it could be, and Goodreads could get it wrong because that's for sure happens. Goodreads definitely gets that stuff wrong. So surprising, equally surprising and not surprising. Spindle Splintered. I also probably should have thought of this one just because Alex C. Harrow is pretty popular, and this is just her newest release. I don't recall if her previous 2 books have been nominated as far as like trends, but I do know she is pretty popular, and this was, I guess, hype. So not surprised there. Master of Jen, For the Wolf, and Jasmine Throne, all on my list. Wait, no, I didn't end up putting Jasmine Throne on my list. Oh, dang it. Oh, Jasmine Throne was one of the ones I was considering putting on my predictions and then decided not to. Oh, man, I wish I had kept it. That was, oh, man, that's tragic. When I was doing my list, I had like my last 2 spots, and I had like 5 books I was juggling, and that was one. That's disappointing. I should have gone with my gut. Inheritance of Arcadia Divina. This one, I guess, also isn't super surprising. It is fantasy. It is getting a lot of buzz. Like, it was a book of the month choice. I didn't think about it. Like, I even read it before I did these, and I didn't even think about it. So, definitely missed that one. All right, Ariadne. Got that one. Wolf and the Woodsman. That was another one I had, like, long listed, but decided not to include on my list. So, therefore, not surprising, but obviously didn't guess it. The Crown of Gilded Bones, that's fascinating because that was on my romance predictions, and honestly, I would have put it on my fantasy if it had not been for the fact that For Blood and Ash was a romance nominee last year, because The Crown of Gilded Bones I read and was very much more fantasy than a romance to me, but because From Blood and Ash was a romance nom last year, I figured it's the same series, so it would be a romance nom. So that's interesting. So I guess I'm not surprised it is nominated in the Goodreads Choice Awards, but definitely surprised it's nominated in this category. Okay, Sorrowland. That one I did get. This was probably the one I was least confident of my 15 would be nominated, but I had a gut feeling. So we did well with that gut feeling. And then we have The Unbroken, which I did not put, but I'm not surprised. That one I definitely have been hearing buzz. I guess I just decided against adding it. I think I saw it had lower number of ratings, so I didn't think it'd quite make it, but definitely been hearing hype around that one, so again, not shocked. Court of Solar Flames, expected that one. The Book of Magic, that one, it might be the most surprising one, only because, like, I know the whole Practical Magic series is technically about witches, but in my mind, they're historical fiction. And, like, that's totally me. And, like, that's not saying that's correct. But because of that, I didn't even consider that. Like, this book has gotten a ton of hype. It's a Book of the Month book. But in my mind, it's historical fiction, so it didn't even cross my mind. And then The Chosen and the Beautiful. That one, not horribly surprising either. Again, it has gotten a lot of hype. I think this one also, I had gotten the impression it wasn't super fantasy heavy, like it was kind of maybe more fiction, a little historical fiction. So I think I just like didn't really think about that one either. I put a different book by that author on that list. So, those are our fantasy. Wait, how many was that? Wait, was that 20 books? Did they do 20 in the first round? Oh man, I thought they were only doing 15, man. Now I'm trying to think, did they change or did I do it wrong? Anyways, well, of my 15, 10 of the 15 were nominated. And I think that's pretty good. 2/3 of my guesses were on it. Plus 10 plus Crown and Gilded Bones. Which is like a half point in my favor, I think, Sort of got that one right, but not really. Anyways, so yeah, that's interesting that it's 20. I'm gonna have to look back at the previous years after I do this just to see if they changed or if I just like misremembered the number. That'll be interesting to see. So, all right, that was the fantasy. Let us go to the romance, see what we got. All right, so the first four I got all of those. We have The Ex Talk, While We Were Dating, 7 Days in June, Neon God. So starting off again, the first rows are killing it for me. All right, going down. The Road Trip, got that one. Wait, did I not put the road trip on? Oh my god, I thought I put the road trip on. Oh man, I totally thought I had the road trip on my list. I've forgotten what I put. I'm shocked that didn't make my final list, actually. I totally thought it did. I don't know why I decided against that. That's interesting. But yeah, because her previous two books have been nominated, and I put this on my long list. Like I'm looking at it now. I don't know why I decided not to keep out the short list. Huh. Anyways, so the X Hex, not totally shocked because it is a Book of the Month choice, and I know Book of the Month choice get a lot of ratings, and that probably helps them. Same with the Dating Plan. I did not consider this one in my list. Like I don't even think that one made my long list, which my long list for the romance was like 33 books. I don't even think I put this one on there actually. Yeah, I didn't even think about this one at all, but again, not surprised. It was a Book of the Month choice, so got a lot of ratings. And then People Meet on Vacation, got that one. That one felt like a really obvious nominee. With how big Emily Henry's adult romances are. All right, Life's Too Short, Second First Impressions, got those two on there. The Charm Offensive, again, another one I thought about but didn't put on my list. The Spanish Love Deception. This, after I recorded my initial guesses, this felt like my most obvious miss. This was one that I've heard about, but I didn't even really put much thought into whether it should be on the list. And then I watched some romance booktubers predictions, and they all had it on, and they were talking about how many ratings it has. Like it has a ton of ratings, and I was like, oh, maybe that's way more popular than I realized, and it felt like a huge miss on my part, and confirmed was a huge miss. Definitely should have put it on there. So then One Last Stop. Yep, The Soulmate Equation. And yep, got that one. How to Fail at Flirting. I definitely didn't even think about this one. This one might be the most surprising one I've seen so far. Yeah, this is the one I'm the most surprised at by far, I think. Even though this one has way less ratings than this one, but just as far as like my impression of its hype and popularity, I've heard like no one talk about this one. I've heard about it just enough that I have it on my TBR, but like I have not really heard about it as like a hyped book at all. So definitely a little surprised at that one, but interesting. I think what little I have heard, I've heard pretty good reviews, just haven't heard a ton about it. And then It Happened One Summer, got that one. And then moving down, The Heart Principle, got that one. And also, since I made my predictions, well, I made my prediction, I had not read it. I have since read it, and I disagree with its inclusion on this list because I don't think it's a romance. And let's see, this is the last row, so I actually think I have not read every book on this list, but I've actually think Goodreads seems to have done a good job this year with the romance so far, is putting books that are actually romance on here, because this is the only one on here that I would not consider a romance, and then of the ones I have not read, I have not heard anyone talk about those and not consider them a romance. So impressed, but yeah, this one I don't think it was a romance. It was contemporary fiction, so it should not be nominated. But again, Helen Huang's so popular, and it is the third book in a series. And so since the first two were romance, like you'd think this one was, but anyways, so. But yeah, definitely don't think it should be on there purely for that reason. It should be maybe in the fiction category instead. But then Love Hypothesis, yep, definitely got that one. Actor A.G. Brown, yep. And then Shipped. I'm pleasantly surprised to see this on here. I love this book. It's one of my favorite romances of the year, but I've heard like no one talk about it. So even though I loved it, I didn't even think about putting it on this list because like it's not hyped enough to be on this list. But very glad to see that. So see this. I think there's 20 books on here again. Yeah, 20 bucks. And then of my 15 that I guessed, I got 13 out of 15 right. So the two that I guessed that were not on were Portrait of a Scotsman by Evie Dunmore, which is not surprising because I thought it'd be a stretch to get historical just because based on last year's trends, historical didn't really make it. But I thought maybe one would get on. I thought it might be that one because the previous ones had been nominated. And then the other one that I got wrong was The Crown of Gilded Bones, which I was nominated just under fantasy. So like I still sort of got it right. I got it right that it was going to be nominated just in the wrong category. So I knocked the romance predictions right out of the park. So that got some interesting things here though. For the second last part of this video, I'm doing a TBR. So last year I challenged myself to read every single romance nominee so that when we got to the final round, when I voted, I would have read all the books, so I knew that the book I was voting for was the one I actually thought was the best of all the nominees, not just the one I had read. And so I'm going to do that again this year because I thought it was really fun. And so of these 20, I have 8 that I need to read out of these. I have not read The Road Trip, The Spanish Love Deception, The Charm Offensive, Neon Gods, It Happened One Summer, Bex Hex, While We Were Dating, and How to Fail at Flirting. And then whenever the write-in votes get added, we'll also see which of those I haven't read. And depending on how I'm doing with this, whether or not I want to add those in, because the final round never has the write-in votes in because just the way the write-in votes work, like they kind of miss out on a full round of voting, so they just never have enough votes to make it in the final round. So depending on how I'm doing with these 8, I might add in the write-in books too. I guess also depending on how many of them I've read. Last year I did read all of them, but I did have more time last year because I did nothing because completely just in my apartment because height of COVID, and then also I had 2 weeks off work at the beginning of the reading of the awards, so I just had a lot more time. So I'm definitely gonna read the 8 to get these 20 read because the top 10 for the final round are guaranteed to be from these 20. But if I have plenty of time and I can fit it in, I might add in all the write-ins just to have said I read all of the nominees. And so this year I also got a jump on getting copies of the books because last year I remember there was a couple books I couldn't quite get from the library in time, so I ended up buying them. And so I'm trying to not buy ones I don't want to because that adds up really quickly. And so of these 8, I already have library copies or a purchase copy in one case of 6 of them. So the only ones I need to acquire are The Spanish Love Deception and How to Fail at Flirting. So I went on like this huge requesting spree like a month ago in preparation to try to get ahead of the holds, and I did pretty well. I mostly cover the ones I needed. I guess, again, we'll see with the write-ins, and maybe the write-ins are ones I didn't even think of, and I have a bunch to acquire. But yeah, so that's going to be my TBR for, it's supposed to be my November TBR, but it's going to be end of November, beginning of December TBR instead. And I'm going to do a second video where I do like kind of a vlog and like rank them as I go, starting off with the ones I've already read. So thanks for watching this predictions and reactions and TBR video. In the comments, let me know what you think about the nominees for any of the awards categories, fantasy, romance, or any of the others. Definitely happy to hear your thoughts and tell me who you're going to vote for, who you think should win, who you think was snubbed, and yeah, let me know. Wait a second, there's no write-in here. Hold just one cotton picking minute. Are there no write-ins this year? Let's see. Ooh. Oh my God, they shortened the period. All right, this changes everything. This changes everything. Okay. Yeah, they definitely, this is ending about the same time it was the first time, but it started 2 weeks later. So I think that means there's not going to be any write-ins. Okay, let's see. 20 bucks and then 10. Oh, okay. Okay, excellent. That is good from the TBR standpoint because that means there are no write-ins that I have to try and scramble to get. So those 8 books are my actual final TBR, and it actually is going to end up being my November TBR based on these dates. So anyways, thanks for this roller coaster of a TBR part of this video. Hope this doesn't come off too chaotic after editing, but yeah, anyways, I will see you guys in my next video.